In today's how-to, I'm going to be showing you guys how to install Cavfab's 1-ton crossover steering with Heim joints. This kit is going to be a high clearance kit, which is only $20 more on their website, and it has some bends in the tie rod and drag link, which allows for more clearance around the sway bar and diff cover. So let's get started and take the old steering out. So the factory steering setup you have is going to be called a inverted Y setup. And basically you have a tie rod from your driver's side knuckle all the way to your drag link, which meets right here. And then from your passenger side knuckle, you have the drag link that goes all the way up to your Pitman arm. And this is an okay setup, but once you lift your Jeep and go off-roading, this tie rod becomes really flimsy, and if you hit a rock, it's just going to bend easily. So with crossover steering, we have a tie rod that goes from the driver's side knuckle all the way to the passenger side. And then we got a drag link that goes from our Pitman arm all the way to the passenger side knuckle. So first thing we're going to do to take this thing off is we're going to jack up the front axle and put it on jack stands, take off the wheels, and then we're going to take a couple measurements before we remove our old steering. So before we go ahead and take off our old steering setup, we're taking a quick measurement of our toe. And to do that, we're just measuring on the top of the bolt on each tie rod end on the knuckles. And right in the center, we get about 52 inches on the dot. So next we can take off our old steering, and to do that, we just got our tie rod ends here. We got a cotter pin holding it in, so just take a pair of side cuts and pull it out. Then we can take a 3/4 inch socket and take this off. Then the last thing you have to do is take off your steering stabilizer. The factory bolt on Jeeps is going to be an 18mm, but this happens to be a 3/4. So since we're going to be running these Heim joints on the end, they're going to be a 5/8 bolt, so we're going to have to make sure our Pitman arm and our knuckles right here are going to have to be drilled out to a 5/8. And to do that, I'm going to be using a 5/8 reamer. I went and picked this up on Amazon for about 40 bucks. And by using a reamer compared to just a regular drill bit, it helps keep the hole aligned in the center, and that way it won't wander when you're starting to drill like a standard drill bit would do. So when reaming out the Pitman arm, I'm going to actually remove it from the vehicle. That way I can get it in a vise and have more room to work. That way I can make sure that the hole is going to be straight. So to do that, I'm just going to be taking a Pitman arm puller, setting it over like this. I already removed the nut, and hopefully it should come off nicely. Alright, so once you got the hole drilled in your Pitman arm, you can go ahead and reinstall it. And before putting the nut back on, make sure you put some Loctite on it, because you don't want this guy coming loose. Alright, so now we got the tie rod just temporarily bolted on, and you can see they have these bends in them on both sides, and you want to make sure that these bends are actually facing forward. That way it can clearance the diff cover and the sway bar brackets. So before permanently putting the whole setup in, I adjusted the tie rod so it's exactly the measurement we had before we took off the original steering, and that happened to be 52 inches right on the dot. Now because this has high clearance bends in it, it makes it really tedious for this to adjust, because if it was just to be a straight bar, you can easily turn it one way or the other, and it would either bring in your tires or push them out. But instead, this way, you actually have to unbolt it each time and turn it a couple turns or whatever to get it exactly where you want. So installing this driver's side heim joint, we're going to first take our bolt and washer. It's going to be the shorter one that comes in the kit. Stick it through, then stick our track bar through the bottom of it, and then we're going to take another washer, fit it on the bottom, and then take a nylon lock nut and stick it on there. When you tighten this down to your final measurement, make sure to use red Loctite because you don't want these guys coming loose on you. Okay, so when assembling the passenger side knuckle, it's going to be a little more difficult, but we're basically going to take a long bolt with a washer on it, and then we're going to take a spacer, fits this way, and then that should fit in our drag link, like so. And then we're going to take another spacer, fit it underneath it, and then another washer. And then we can fit this over the knuckle. So it sits down like that. And the way that this drag link is curved, we want to make sure that it's sticking out towards the front of the vehicle. Next, we're going to place another washer right under here, and then fit our tie rod into place, and then take another washer, and then a nut. So for where the Pitman arm is, now depending on how much lift you have, you can either mount this below or above the Pitman arm. For what I'm going to do, I'm going to mount it below, and to do that, we're going to take the medium-sized bolt that comes with the kit, take the washer on one end, and then we're going to put our spacers in place on this heim joint here. And then we can take our bolt, stick it through, stick another washer on top, and then we can feed it through the hole on our Pitman arm. This is where it comes in handy when you have another friend that can help shake the steering wheel. Would you like to shake it? Right there. And then we can take another washer and then fit our nut right on top. Okay, so once you get everything situated to where you want it and is aligned correctly, you can go ahead and tighten everything down, and use red Loctite when you do it because you don't want these guys coming apart. Now, since these are just a straight through bolt, they're not tapered, so these things can easily come apart when they wiggle back and forth, and they'll have a lot of slop. So you want to make sure that everything gets tightened down correctly. Now, when adjusting your steering wheel, you're going to do that through the drag link here. You can either do it on this end or the Pitman arm end, or you can do both. And it will be tedious to do just like it is on the tie rod because there is a bend in here, so you can't just simply twist the drag link. So you have to take off one end at a time, spin it around, re-bolt it up, and see if it lines up. So we got everything tightened up, and now we're going to go put the wheels back on and see how it looks. Alright guys, we're all done. It was a pretty smooth install. Cavfab really does have a complete kit, and I'm really impressed with their quality. Now if you want to get this kit, I have a link in the description below, and it only cost me about $260 and another $40 shipped to my door, which isn't bad at all. So I hope you guys learned something, and we'll see you in the next how-to.